Hey everybody, this is the Rogue Overland Adventure Chat podcast. I'm Nick Savacci and this is episode 5.
And I'm Mike Schaefer, and today we're going to talk about what's best for adventuring: van, pickup, SUV.
All right, Mike, so here we are, episode 5,
Yeah.
and we are talking about, are you wanting to adventure in a van, a pickup truck, or an SUV? Out of those three options, kind of what are the pros and cons?
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to get some hate on this when we're all said and done, because there's so many different ways this thing could go.
True.
But I think the way we talked a little bit, but maybe the way we approach it is, because I ran a pickup, I ran an SUV. You've definitely had the van, obviously, the adventure van over here.
Yep.
I think let's just talk about some of our experiences with them.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of bring our real world perspective into it.
I like that. Let's do that. So we'll go through one at a time.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's start with the one that we know is the absolute best. No, I'm just kidding.
Third gen 4Runners?
Third gen 4Runners,
yeah.
of course. Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's start with SUVs. So you have the little black Toyota.
Yep.
2000.
It's a 2000 third gen 4Runner. Yep.
Which is completely stock.
Yeah, bone stock.
And then I have a 2001 Xterra, which is a first generation Nissan Xterra, which is also totally stock.
Just a spacer lift, right?
Spacer lift. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So we have those. So pros and cons of the SUV platform. I'm gonna start with one that I think is maybe pretty obvious, but maybe people don't necessarily think about, and that's that. Outside of the roof rack, all your stuff is supported within a controlled environment.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest advantage to have an SUV is all your gear's inside.
Yeah.
If you can fit it all inside. Obviously, we're running stuff on the roof too.
Yeah.
But
we're busting at the seams.
Yeah, because we are busting at the seams. But again, that's another nice thing about SUV is you do have a lot of real estate up top to put stuff like that too, if you do need that extra room.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I like a lot. And without jumping to our experience with pickup trucks, that's something that I like a lot is none of your gear gets dusty.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's short of having the windows open,
Yeah.
but everything is going to be, dry if it's raining outside. It's going to be clean if it's windy and dusty outside. So I think that I really enjoy about the SUV. But I will, because we're trying to just bring light on our experiences, I will also say that you have to consider the fact that all your stuff is inside.
Yep.
So
and you've got some major size constraints, because both of us, same situation, 5 people, And again, this could go 2 different ways, because you and I are running with 5 people. So that back seat is occupied. Like you're not putting storage there, right? So you're very limited in the back. Look at Sean. Sean's running the FJ Cruiser, which doesn't have a lot of cargo space in it anyway, but he's running he's running his friend. There'll be 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of real estate to keep stuff dry and out of the weather.
Yeah, and I know for a long time he has the Goose Gear platform in there, and I know for a long time or quite a few trips he was even sleeping inside.
Yeah, and that was the next point I was going to bring up is like me on the rally by myself in an SUV. Dude, I just throw my bed out and it stays there all week.
Yeah.
I've got the perfect place to sleep.
Yeah.
You're out of the elements. You're inside.
Right.
So
now,
that can be a benefit too.
One thing I do want to say though, where I can swing that and say it is a negative, I remember when we were in Oregon, you remember we did that trip in Oregon, we were up there for, I think it was 19 days. And what did we get rained on? 4 or 5 days in a row?
Oh my gosh, dude. We got pounded on.
Where does all your wet gear go?
Trasharoo. I mean, that's what happened to us, man.
Okay, so that's the thing to consider
we got soaked. I don't think we owned anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So all that gear, unless you're putting in the trasharoo, is going to end up inside with you.
You got to consider that. Everything's got to go. It's either got to be on the roof, which can present problems in itself, but or it's got to be inside, and that's kind of a downfall of having an SUV like that.
Yeah.
We want to take a quick pause to ask you your opinion. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you throw a comment below as this conversation progresses and let us know what you think. Did we miss any key points as to van versus SUV versus truck? You might have some point of views that we didn't consider, and we'd love to hear them. If you're listening on your favorite podcast source, please consider leaving us a 5-star review as it helps with our ranking. Also, just a reminder, a new episode of Adventure Chat drops the first and third Sunday of every month.
Now, the one thing I will say, and you already alluded to it, but with that SUV, you do have all that space on the roof rack.
Yeah.
Which is nice because depending on your loadout, that could be a rooftop tent up there.
Yep.
That could be just a ground tent that's stored up there. Basically, it's
stuff you don't have to worry about necessarily being in the weather. Well, even some of it. Well, let's throw this out real quick. I know you guys got us started on the dry bags.
Oh yeah. And
they're perfect thing to throw on the roof to keep stuff dry. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we put our clothes.
Yeah.
We have we put all our clean clothes in a dry bag.
Yeah.
And it goes up on the roof. And then everybody's sleeping bag, if we're not running a CVT rooftop tent, which is generally the brand that we run.
Yeah.
If we're not in the rooftop tent, then also we have another dry bag that everybody's sleeping bag goes in, and the sleeping bag and then the shift pod, which is the ground tent that we'll typically use, all goes up on the roof. So the nice thing is you're talking about things that are generally light, so you're trying to keep that center of gravity down the best you can.
Yep.
And then also because it's in the bin in the dry bag, it's protected from the elements.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with us. We generally keep all of our sleeping bags and stuff on the roof, kind of our sleeping stuff up there in dry bags.
Yep.
And then keep all our clothes inside. So each kid has his own go bag basically. And then when we get to camp, we can get the stuff off the roof. We can get the go bag out and let them have it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, to get back on point a little bit, yeah, that's kind of the advantage of having an SUV is you've got the dry storage, you've got the storage on the roof. And I think another advantage too is I feel like, especially let's compare my third gen 4Runner to a Tacoma.
Okay.
You've got a shorter wheelbase, a little bit smaller package for steering around on the trails.
Yeah.
So you do lose some of that storage from the pickup truck side of it, but you do have a smaller wheeling package.
Yeah.
If that's something important to consider too.
Absolutely. I remember when we had the Tacoma, and without going too far into pickups, because we'll talk about those by themselves, but you used to joke that it looked like I was navigating a whale through the trail. And you're right, with the SUV, you do have that more, let's just say, if it's not a bad word, no, it's not, because we do like all manufacturers, but you do have more of a Jeep-ish package.
Yeah, when
you're running that SUV.
Oh yeah. Well, I know like in the Tacomas, I believe, and they're pretty close, I'm pretty sure they're the same. The regular cab, so single cab in the first generation Tacomas, single cab Tacoma, short bed truck has the same wheelbase as a third gen 4Runner.
Oh, it does.
So just to give you a size comparison of a pickup truck to an SUV, that's kind of what you're dealing with.
Yeah. So now, since we're kind of talking about the wheeling, though, I'm gonna throw this out there, and I'm gonna say, I do believe, in my experience from being out with guys with trucks and SUVs, and you and I wheeling SUVs, it seems like when you're wheeling, there's a lot more that always wants to grab a rock when you're in a tippy
100%.
Type situation
100%.
in an SUV versus a pickup.
And then also on that same line of thinking, your weight balance front to rear is you've got a lot more weight in the back with an SUV. My truck loves to lift tires.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that is I've got a swing out on the back, but I've also got a crap ton of glass and metal up high that you don't generally have to deal with on a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And that really throws the weight balance off a little bit when you're trying to climb something steep. It wants to lift that front end up because a lot of that weight on that vehicle is in the back, especially when we're loaded down with gear to go camping or adventuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it compounds that problem.
It's all that weight. I always thought little black Toyota was just waving at me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's just
lift the tire up and wave, hey, Nick.
It just likes to show
Good
off
to
its
see you.
undercarriage,
Yeah. But no, that is a good point, right? Because with a pickup truck, you don't have that extra sheet metal. You don't have all that glass.
You got a pickup bed back there, but you've got an engine block in the front. You've got a wind, a lot of stuff on the front, and the pickup beds aren't that heavy. Two guys can lift one of them off.
Yeah.
Two guys are not going to lift the back of an SUV off.
Yeah, so your center of gravity is lower, and when you're going up over obstacles, you're getting the weight in a pickup truck, you're getting it up over first.
Yep.
Where in our SUVs, you got the engine block over the front, but like you said, all that extra weight still has to come up with the rear axle.
So that's definitely can be a disadvantage in an SUV. It can be an advantage too if you're coming down something steep, having some weight in the back. But you're also even though that weight's better, you still got a heavier package trying to go downhill that you have to stop.
Oh yeah.
So it's it's a balancing act of what you want to do. Yeah. For us, it's no question we have to be in an SUV because of how many people we have. So, but that's 100%. Something. But that's definitely something to be aware of in versus the other platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Now, something that I will say a negative on the SUV is that, well, not negative, but something to be aware of is that all your gear, and this is going to sound like I'm saying the same thing, but all your gear is inside with you. So that means that all your gear has to be secured properly.
Oh, yeah.
Right? For safety.
Yes.
When you talk about any type of traumatic situation, car crash, things like that, or even, for example, you can check out our video on the Rogue Overland YouTube channel of Steel Bender in Moab, the wall or the drop, depending on what you like to call it, and obstacles where you have that big descent and you're looking down at the ground.
Oh yeah.
Things from the back will come flying at you.
Yeah, and we've definitely. I know that there's been trips where I thought I had everything secure, and I do get bad about securing stuff in the back. I'll admit that, but I've definitely heard the kids go zoop and catch a sleeping bag or something in the back of the head while we're coming down something. We try to keep light stuff on top, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big thing. A lot of people I know will run grates, almost like the dog crate grates between the passenger compartment and the rest of the back too. So
flying stuff is just part of their Jedi training. Yeah.
That's what it looks like too.
Yeah. Okay, so what else do you think? Any other thoughts on SUV pros, cons?
I think that's kind of the biggest things. Is just it's the amount of room you have in one. I think is really the biggest thing. Yeah. Well, let me put it a different way. I think, where do you need the room? I need people room.
Right.
Versus cargo. So actually I need both, but I need more ability to seatbelt 5 people in than I do cargo area. And that's kind of one of the big things you got to look at.
Before we get into the pros and cons of a pickup truck, we want to take a minute to thank some of the sponsors who have come on board to support the 2024 Rogue Overland Expedition. If you're not familiar with the Rogue Overland Expedition, it is a premier off-road event where we lead a group of overland enthusiasts on a multi-day adventure. The first company we'd like to thank is Adventure Trailers in Prescott, Arizona. They are one of the few companies in North America offering a comprehensive overland fitment center. They can outfit and modify vehicles and provide truck toppers, campers, storage solutions, rooftop tents, heating, cooling, refrigeration, and cooking accessories. We have had personal experience with their habitat setup on our 3rd gen Tacoma build, and we can tell you that they have quality products that are worth looking into. You can find them at atoverland.com. The next company we'd like to thank is Tembo Tusk. Most recognizable for the Scottle, they also make tables, fridge slides, and other camping accessories. We have had many years' experience with the Scottle and have to say that it is a great product, especially when you're cooking for a large group. They manufacture robust and durable gear because they don't think that you should have to buy the same piece of gear twice. One of the other things we really like about Tembo Tusk is that their products are made in America using American labor and materials. You can find them at tembotusk.com.
I feel like this is maybe going more into a fluid conversation than just talking about one at a time. So let's jump right into that and let's just say what you're basically saying. And that's that with a pickup truck, your cargo capacity for non-buckled in humans or dogs is huge.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're, and double cabs are kind of, they're more popular than they were when I had my first Tacoma back in 2001. Right. They had the double cabs, but they weren't as out there as they are now. So I mean, I guess some of that plays into that too. But yeah, the cargo space on a pickup truck is the biggest selling point of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bed, even a short bed, even a stubby short bed on a F-150 or a 5.5 foot bed on a 150 is going to give you more room than a standard SUV is ever going to give you, than a new 4Runner or something like that.
Yeah, 100%, and to also play along in that thing thought process is right. With the SUV, your choice is basically ground tent, cot, whatever type of sleeping, rooftop tent, right? So that's kind of like your choices. But when you start looking at pickup trucks, I mean, the doors bust open. You have everything from just sleeping in the back of your pickup truck to and adventure trailers habitat set up to
slide in four-wheel camper.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different options out there.
There's some what's that truck house it's called or whatever, but it's a
third
gen Tacoma. No, it's a third gen Tacoma platform that basically has like a camper
I don't know
set up on the back. Oh yeah, they're out of like Lake Tahoe.
Interesting.
If you guys know the name of that and you're on YouTube, throw it in the comments below, put a link. But yeah, it's basically, it's built off an old design. And I'm a Nissan guy, you're a Toyota guy, so I can't think of what the old like 70s design is. But it's basically, a Tacoma or a Toyota pickup truck, but there's a molded thing. Think of like the Earth Roamer, but a Tacoma version of it.
Oh, you're talking about the guy that actually replaces the entire pickup bed.
Yeah, the whole
I know what
pickup
you're
bed,
talking
right?
about. Yeah.
So
those are super cool.
Right. Yeah. So you have with a pickup truck, there's just a lot more.
There is a lot of options. Yeah.
Right.
You're not going to cut the back. Well, some people would, but you're not going to cut the back of an SUV off to make that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a pickup bed, that bed's removable. Man, the sky's the limit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I would also think that we should comment on with the fact that you are storing stuff back there. Dust does tend to be
100%.
a massive issue. I know our buddies, Will and Eric, they'll put a tarp over everything in the back of the pickup truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything you store back there is exposed.
It's exposed, and that's a security issue too. If you've got high expensive gear, high cost gear and stuff back there, that can be a problem too.
Yeah.
Now some of that can be negated with truck bed toppers. Our buddy Ian, he runs a standard Lear topper
the
with a rack on the roof on the top of it. Kind of gives them the best of both worlds. But if they're not sealed up well, that can still definitely be a dust issue. I don't know how well the habitat held up with dust control and stuff like that, but at least it's a lockable area that you can put your gear in.
Yeah, so we had the Adventure Trailers habitat on 3rd Gen Tacoma. Helios was the name of that build. You can check out the YouTube video, how to build a build video of it. But it was way better than not having anything. But yeah, it was the same thing. Around the tailgates. I used a ton of caulking and weather stripping. Yeah. And I got it to seal up pretty well. But you're always going to have some dust.
Yeah, it's hard. Some people do a better job. I know my dad fought it with the truck that I have now. He had a Diamondback cover on it.
Oh yeah.
Which was a phenomenal cover. He loaded 2 full-size quads on the top of it. But I remember seeing weather stripping around everything because he would try to keep the dust out of it. Yeah. And it was always a little bit of a fight to keep that stuff done. Maybe that's why the Australians do positive air pressure and stuff in all their stuff, because that's probably the only way you can really mitigate it. Yeah.
So that's kind of equipment-wise, and then I would say off-roading-wise. And I'm going to go with the conversation that in general, right, not every case, as you pointed out.
There's always special cases for everything.
But generally, you're going to have a longer wheelbase with a pickup truck, which, in my experience, in a lot of cases, will put you in a better situation for obstacles.
It really depends on where you're at.
Well, true.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're not in the same holes or ruts that an SUV is because of that longer wheelbase. Oh, yeah. We always joke with Ian's Tacoma, right, that the front end is through the obstacle before the back end gets there.
Which in some situations, like I know in Moab, on those big steep climbs and stuff, having that extra wheelbase is kind of an advantage.
Yeah.
Versus the short wheelbase stuff. But like you get out on the Rubicon, having a double cab long bed Tacoma is going to kill you out there.
And that I'm going to attribute to the tightness, right?
The tight terrain area. It's the type of terrain you're in,
Yeah, so pro or con, depending on what you're generally in.
Yeah, and that longer wheelbase can help you out. You get out in the whoop in the long. If you're doing a lot of long distance desert stuff where you're getting into a lot of the whoop-de-doos or the stuff like that, having a little bit longer wheelbase, it allows the vehicle to kind of bounce a little more over those. Where if you have a short one, you're in and out, kind of thing. So
Yeah, we didn't have long travel on the Tacoma, but we did have was Toy Tech Boss 2.5.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of like
Kind of a mid.
I'm
We
gonna
call
say like
them
mid-grade.
Mid-travel is what we
Yeah.
always called kind of that
Yeah,
setup.
and I mean, I remember, especially coming from the solid axle swapped Xterra, I remember
yeah.
you get out in the desert and you're just like, this is really nice. Is this a Cadillac?
Yeah, it's yeah, but there's just that's some of the stuff, you know. And at the end of the day, we're going to come here and we're going, you know, there's no way we could say this an SUV is better than this or whatever,
yeah.
like because there's so many freaking variables out there, you know.
Yeah.
If you're running the Rubicon every other weekend, dude, don't get a long bed pickup truck.
No.
You know,
No.
But there's just so many variables. So we're really just trying to put like, hey, these are some of our real world experiences on this. Take that for things to consider. You know, take that in your thought process as you're looking for these things.
Yeah, I think
You know,
so.
because there's so many situations where, you know, like, you know, Sean and Ian, they're good friends, but their suspension wise, their trucks are almost identical.
Yeah.
You know, like
Total chaos,
long
right?
travel, total
Yeah.
chaos stuff. They both work great in the desert, but you can watch those two vehicles on an obstacle and really see a difference on how they act because of the length and stuff of them, you know, and it's
yeah.
fun to compare those two.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good comparison of like similar suspension versus a long pickup truck versus a shorter SUV kind of thing.
Well, and I think to speak to that, it makes me think of like when we've run John Bull. Like you get on John Bull and Ian with the Tacoma in comparison.
Yeah.
They're both great drivers, but Ian's struggling, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a lot of tightness. It's a lot of like
He's
there's a big
he's got to
boulder
think about what the
here.
back of that bed is doing because
What's
you've
it-
got
yeah.
this much behind the tire.
And then I got to be 3 steps ahead because
Yeah.
I got to put that tire where
Yeah.
I need it. But then we get out to somewhere like Sand Hollow, or we get out to somewhere like Moab.
and that length is such an advantage to him.
Such an advantage.
Yeah.
So it is. It's what are you going to be doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think those are the main for SUV and truck.
I feel like it. I feel like those are kind of the big things you're going to look at. And I think our next thing we're going to look at is the van, right? And this is just a category all of its own. I feel like you can't even like, you know, well, SUV versus a pickup truck, like the van thing. It's a big deal. Like van life right now is huge.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have a phenomenal build, and this is going to be your section because you're definitely the van guy here. But yeah, they kind of bring their whole own thing into the game, you know.
Yeah, they do. And I'll do my best not to just monologue this, so do chime in as you think. But yeah, so we have the Nissan NV3500. We dubbed it the adventure van, named Bertha, and it's basically a Nissan Titan XD.
Yeah.
So it's a pickup truck.
Yes.
And it's rare in its class. You know, there's the was Econoline Fords, but
Those are
not
super
really
popular
being
back
made
in the day,
anymore.
yeah.
You
That's
kind of can
unfortunate
still,
too. Man.
yeah.
They're such good vans.
So it's sort of the one that's body on frame that's left and alive, to my best knowledge.
Yeah, because all the vans, what else is in that category? You got Sprinter vans, you got the Ford they're building their Transit vans. They're all pretty much unibody.
Unibody, yep.
So it's hard to work with a chassis like that, really, for modification and stuff.
Yeah, so the thing that comes down, and you know, at Overland Expo, I mean, I've seen like a Ford Transit on a solid axle. So of course, with the right amount of money and skill set, you can do anything.
Money, yeah.
You can do anything. But no, in general, yeah, you're right. So you're talking about minimal lift, not a ton of travel with your Mercedes, with your Transit.
And we're
So
definitely
that's-
not dogging those either because I've seen a crap ton of four-wheel drive Mercedes and stuff out there in the wild.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So they
And-
must work at some way.
Well, and they're great, and that's the thing what I'm kind of say is what are you using the van for? Kind of this recurring theme. What are you using it for? What are you doing? So one weekend we might be wheeling off into some campsite where I need the front locker, and you know, when we were in Canada this last summer, finding a campsite by a river that we heard about, and so. I would tell you some of the places we've been, there's no Mercedes van that's getting there, right?
Yeah.
The next weekend, I might be pulling dirt bikes to
Yeah.
meet up with you guys to go ride dirt bikes with the kids. And then the weekend after that, it might be just me and my wife going somewhere to do some hiking or some mountain biking, and most of it is road miles.
Yeah.
So the thing about
that
it
thing's
is
perfect for that, too.
Yeah, it will fit in all those keyholes. Now, if you're just an avid mountain bike, not just an avid mountain biker, but if you are an avid mountain biker and that's what you're doing all the time, and you're doing some fire roads to get some cool campsites, get to some trailheads, any of those vans are going to work just fine for you. You need the 4-wheel drive to get you out of maybe a little bit of mud or some snow. So that's where I would say think about what you're doing, because if 80% of your driving is on the highway and you want the creature comforts, the fit and finish of a Mercedes is going to be way better than a Nissan van. You know, so I think that's where think about what you want to do with it, and they all have their place. And then the other thing that I will say is what a van, when you're looking at the other things, is, again, what do you want to do? Because my Xterra, little black Toyota, you know, they're not going to pull 5 dirt bikes on a car haul trailer.
They barely can haul themselves down the interstate.
Exactly. You know, they're not going to. Now, maybe, you know, you start looking at pickup trucks, they can do a little more towing. But really, at the end of the day, my idea of a van is I need something that's going to take the gear and the people and then support life, right? So give us a place to live, give us a place to eat.
I think that right there is one of the biggest benefits of a van. You know, is like you pull in somewhere, shut the motor off, you turn around, you're home.
That's right.
Even in the setup that I'm trying to build with the Cummins now, with the Dodge. You know, we still got to get out. You know, it's still a separate living habitat that's disconnected. You know, I think that's the biggest advantage of what you got. You've got there.
And I do think in this whole broad scheme of, you know, vans, trucks, SUVs, I do think that when you're looking at vans, I would also highly recommend that you look at something like what you have, a diesel truck with a slide-in camper or some type of living quarters. Because I do believe, in my opinion, that those two categories are very similar.
They are. I agree. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a crossover section there.
Totally. And I think it's just how nice of a living setup do you want? And then that's where you start to look at, okay, have I come away from SUV and pickup truck because I want a full-on shower that's sustained, because I want this. That's where van and slide-in on a pickup truck are going to be more in your wheelhouse. And then how much gear do I need to pull? Because like your truck, I mean, it'll still pull a little black Toyota, right?
Oh yeah, I think that thing's rated to pull 13,000 pounds, which is, you know, my third gen 400 is like 12, so no. But I think, and that's kind of, I think both of us are kind of in that spot in our life a little bit where it's like we want a little bit of creature comfort, and we kind of want to, you know, the rigs are getting old enough and beat up enough now and built enough that it's like, let's pull them somewhere and beat on them for a little bit.
Well, Nick Schulte said it best. He's got the silver Xterra that you'll see in some of the videos, solid swapped Xterra. You know, he said it best. He goes, here's the thing. If I'm traveling to Moab, or I'm traveling to Big Bear, or I'm traveling somewhere where I know that I'm rock crawling and camping, why wouldn't I just tow it?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I think that realization came for me when my wheel bearing went out in coming back from Colorado. Last year or 2 years ago. Last year, I think. And I called my dad in Vegas and I said, hey, man, I broke. I'm not going to be able to get this thing home. He's like, I'll grab the car trailer, come get you. We loaded my truck up. He's like, here, you can drive. I'm done. He got in the passenger seat. I got in the driver's seat. Literally ran it up to 75 mile an hour, set to cruise. AC's blown cold. Everybody's comfortable. And I'm thinking, I'm pulling the truck that I was just driving on a car trailer, and I'm more comfortable now, like cruising, like than I was actually driving the vehicle on the road. I'm like, I could get used to this. And that was kind of a mindset. So I know exactly where Schulte's coming from because, you know, the further, you know, we talked about first vehicle mods, and that's kind of that downfall is the further you get down that road, you know, crawl boxes are making noise, mud tires are making noise, you know, it's struggling on hills because, you know, it's half the horsepower it had 300,000 miles ago, you know, kind of thing. It's like, so, but anyway, go back to vans. I think your van has really filled, like it's the perfect checkbox for that.
And that's why the Nissan was the only choice for us, because it will pull on Conius, the yellow Xterra. It will pull it on a car trailer. We can go down to Moab. We can live out of the van and wheel the Xterra the whole weekend. And you know, it's always our goal not to break, but you know, say something happens and there is a failure. Well, you know what? You're going to drag me off the trail. We're going to put it on the car trailer and I'm going to take it home. So I think that, yes, that's what you have to look at. When you're looking at vans, what do you need to do? Because if you're pulling things, if you can deal with maybe a little less fit and finish, the Nissan is a great option. And then when you need a little more luxury, look for that Mercedes.
Yeah.
The Transit van probably lands right in the middle, I imagine. I don't have a ton of experience with those, but I imagine the fit and finish can't be as good as a Mercedes, right? So
yeah, I mean, you would think,
it's probably somewhere in there. But
and I want to throw something out here too that you've kind of missed on this van. Like we've definitely talked about like its towing ability and its living ability, which is super important when you get into vans like that.
Yeah.
That Nissan is still no slouch off road.
Oh no.
Like it's the first time we went out and I kind of watched you, and don't get me wrong, you're not going to take that van across the Rubicon.
No.
But I'd be willing to follow you if you do want to try it because that would be fun. But, it's just like my Dodge. I'm not going to take that truck across the Rubicon. Could it? Maybe with enough stacking and max tracks? Yeah. But that truck is still no slouch off-road. And I maybe for our YouTube viewers, you can throw a little video or something in here. But mentally, I come back to watching that van, pulling the X-Grid camper that we had across that creek to get to that camp spot that we had found up this way too narrow 2-track road.
Yep.
And you threw the front locker on and threw it down, and that van went right through it. And it's funny for me, the other thing that really comes to mind is up in Oregon, you've thrown that thing around the sand dunes.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
It's the most unnatural thing in the world to watch you wheel that van.
Right.
Because you look at it and you're like, there's something like, this picture's not quite right. Like, this van shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I know you've only got the one locker on it. You got a set of sliders on it.
It's got the white knuckle off-road sliders, and I mean that's it, man.
And
the
a little bit of lift,
range
some icon stuff
case.
underneath it. Yeah, you got the low range.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I'm sorry. It does have a lift. Yep. So it's basically ends up being like 2.5 inches of
and
lift.
What size tires do you run?
The icon. They're almost 35s.
Okay.
I forget the exact size, but it's whatever. It's like 34.2 or something.
Okay, but so I mean, really, with that. It's good quality parts in the right spot, but it's not a crazy suspension-wise. It's not an over-the-top build, and that van will still do some insane stuff.
Get her done.
I would love to take it up, and maybe I can talk you into this. I'd love to take it into Sand Hollow sometime.
Yeah.
I like not double Sammy, but get it on some, maybe white rim trail or something, and just kind of see what it does. I don't want to tear it up because it is still a giant freaking van. I think that's the biggest downfall of a van is it's huge.
It is.
But that thing is no slouch, man, off road. It definitely. I wouldn't be afraid to throw it in the woods in Canada or Alaska next year.
Yes.
And throw the front locker on and be like, this rock trail is not too bad. I know that van can do that. And I think that says a lot about having a house to stay in and still be able to get down these rocky, semi-rock crawl roads.
Yeah. No.
It's a big deal.
100%. And yeah, you're right. I probably glazed that too much. And I'm down. What's that? Challenge accepted. Let's do it.
I'll bring the wheelies up,
Sand Hollow.
because I feel like we can kind of do the same trails,
I mean, Mike, I love you, man. Well, as long as you're there, we're going to go for it.
We'll do it, man.
Because between me and you, we'll get it off the trail. Yeah. But no,
but I think it would be
right.
fine on that stuff. I mean, some of those lighter trails. It would be fun to kind of push it a little bit more than you have. But you've really already pushed the thing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten some places, and it's one of those things. You are right. The big downfall is it's big, but that's why the white knuckle sliders were like a very important thing to me because they're legitimate sliders. They're attached to the frame. And so with a big vehicle like that, if I need to pin that slider up against a rock and pivot turn to get through somewhere, then I can do it because, it's huge. Yeah. I mean, it's a massive vehicle.
Yeah. And if you guys out there listening to this, I'm serious. Go find on YouTube, go find the Rogue Overland video where we took the 2 X-Grid campers out. They're an amazing camper.
Yep.
But watch that. In that video, there's some video of Nick going across this little creek, little water running through it, and it was just like you had to drop into it. It was super kind of weird off camber and then climb out. And I think I'm pretty sure you drug the back end of that.
Oh,
but the van went right through it.
No,
it never slipped a tire. And to me, I was like, that is so not normal. Like it shouldn't do that.
I think it's the Australian off-road trailer.
Yeah.
And if you go to our YouTube channel, it's like, search X-Grid campers because
you'll
they're
find
the ones.
But look that video up and look at that.
You can see it.
And I took my wife's 4th Gen 4Runner on there, and after Nick took the van, I'm like, well, I'll take the 4Runner. This thing should be, he's already widened the trail for me.
I remember because at that point, that was the hardest I'd pushed that because you're right, it was a dip down.
Yeah.
And then as you came back up really quick, there wasn't a lot of room.
It was steep
then
because it was cut
curved
out.
to
The
the
creek
right.
had cut it out too.
Then the creek was coming across
I remember we stood there and kind of looked at it for a minute, like, is this a good idea?
Because that's what I said. I said, if we get stuck here for 2 days getting this thing out, and you were like, I'm in for it, and I was like, all right, well, let's do it.
But yeah, the van is no slouch, even though, I mean, it's good at all those different things you talked about, and it's still not a slouch off-road.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it. That's sort of like our experience with the 3. Now we did want to kind of comment on, let's call them the others.
The others, we kind of hit on the 3. I think obviously SUV and pickup are going to be your main categories. I think the vans they're not as big as O2, but they are definitely coming up the ranks. Van life is huge right now. But we get into overland vehicles. There is a crap ton of people out there doing some amazing things in vehicles that you just would not expect. I mean, you've got your Vehicross, that guy on the last road trip, super nice guy. Brandon, yeah. Do you remember his Instagram? Oh man, I'm gonna hate myself right now.
Something.
Yeah, look it up.
You keep talking.
You gotta follow this guy because really he's doing some amazing things with this little SUV, and I just loved watching that thing work. But you got the guys out there running the Earth Roamers, and to me, they're in a category all in their own. Those things are huge, built on a giant 550 chassis. Some of my favorite, though, I love watching the old military guys with these old Army 5 tons and stuff. And I don't get these dudes because I've drove some Army 5 tons in my life. I've spent a lot of time in them. They suck. They're uncomfortable, man. Like, I don't know why anybody would want to drive one around, but there's some amazing builds out there with stuff like that. So there is definitely some other categories out there.
And Jeep. I mean, I guess they're basically SUVs.
Yeah,
but,
I kind of,
But you also,
but I mean, because they've got the Jeep, the SUV, and then they've got
trucks,
the new Jeep trucks. Those things are amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say that out loud, but I mean, the Jeep Gladiators are pretty cool.
A few Toyota people just died when you said
I
that.
know, I'm sorry. Don't pull my card, please.
Yeah, no, it really comes down to, and this is almost cliche at this point, but it's take what you got, right? If what you're doing and you have a Subaru and that gets you out doing what you want to do, then a Subaru is a great vehicle for you. And if you're going to rock crawl a little more, you got to think about that. So it's whatever you have and whatever that you're going to be doing most of the time, build it around that.
Carrie, and throwing back to the Subaru, Carrie Mountain Subi, I believe it's her.
Subi. Yeah.
But she takes that thing everywhere. Sean ran into her on Imogene Pass a couple weekends ago. Did he tell you that?
No, he didn't.
He said, I'm coming up, and he's like, hey, I know her.
Oh my God.
They were at the top of Imogene Pass in Subarus. I love it, man.
Go watch the last couple Rogue Overland Expedition videos. It's under Adventures in our playlist.
Yeah.
And you'll see all these vehicles we're talking about because a lot of them have been on our trips over the years.
What's his Instagram?
The Vehicross, or I don't even know. Vehicross.
Is how I always said it. I don't know if that's right.
If you're fancy, you say Vehicross. So it's Dung Beetle _VX.
Yeah, he's doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I think he just did a 5-speed swap on it. I was looking the other day. Yeah, he's doing. We ought to get him on here and just talk shop with him because he was telling me on the last trip he's got a bunch of random. That dude, there's just people out there that love the random ones, and he's one of those guys.
We need to do that.
Yeah.
Because just like Nissan Xterras, there's probably 4 or 5 people out there interested in an episode about it.
Yeah, and I probably know 2 of them because one of them she ran a Rebel in one.
Athena Xterra or something like that, right? I think was the, I think
I
was
don't
her.
think it was, no, it wasn't, I don't remember now.
Yeah. Because she came on a Rogue Expedition
Dolly
too.
and I can't remember. It's not her though. It was somebody else. It was somebody else. That was in a Vehicross.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Vehicross,
saying an Xterra.
No, in a Vehicross.
Gotcha.
No, they had a bone stock Vehicross and they ran the whole rally in it.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But anyway, there's a lot of fun ones out there.
All right, Mike. I think that's good. Where can they find us?
All the social media stuff. At Rogue Overland on YouTube, Instagram, the Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and all
whatever
the things.
new ones come out. Yeah, and
we're trying to be technology people, and I mean, more power to you. That's his baby there.
It's not fun. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the trail.
Copyright Rogue Overland 2024, all rights reserved.